A powerful secondary explosion occurred 4 hours later. Ukraine's attack damaged dozens of buildings near the Engels airbase. A munitions depot exploded at the strategic Engels airbase near Saratov, where Tu-95MS and Tu-160 bombers are stationed. Based on images recorded at the scene, with the powerful secondary explosion and the nature of the airbase, we are talking about a warehouse storing special cruise missiles, including the Kh-101 and Kh-55. Most notably, images of a massive mushroom cloud from the explosion around 7 a.m. on the 20th have surfaced. The damage has been confirmed by local authorities. At present, everything indicates that the explosion occurred precisely at the aviation munitions depot designated for strategic air forces. Considering that Tu-95MS and Tu-160 bombers from Russia's 121st and 184th Heavy Bomber Regiments are stationed at Engels Air Base, we are dealing with Kh-101 and Kh-55 cruise missiles. Recently, reports have emerged that Russia was preparing for a long-range cruise missile attack. So it appears that Kyiv acted preemptively to strike the weapons stockpile before it could be used. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense later confirmed that their special forces attacked Engels Air Base, as it had been used by Russia to launch airstrikes against Ukraine. The Strana.ua news outlet from Ukraine reported that in Kramatorsk, a city under Ukrainian control in Donetsk province, Russian armed forces attacked a building that was formerly the headquarters of Ukraine's SBU security agency. Notably, this was the first combined attack of its kind. A Russian missile struck the building and exploded. But the assault did not stop there. Immediately afterward, Russian drones appeared and launched relentless attacks on the target. A fire was reported. Donetsk media stated that the former SBU building had recently been repurposed by Ukrainian armed forces as a gathering point for foreign mercenaries and senior officers of the Ukrainian military. Earlier, the Russian news outlet Redovka reported that the night of the 19th was a devastating night for Kyiv. The Russian military launched a series of drone attacks using Shahed UAVs on the city of Dnipro, Ukraine. The attacks destroyed railway infrastructure and took place just as military equipment and NATO ammunition were being unloaded from train convoys. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Russia would exploit negotiations with the US to weaken Ukraine, then attempt to seize additional territory to maximize pressure on Kyiv. He accused Russia of deploying troops to the Ukrainian border and preparing for a new offensive on multiple fronts. Zelensky also warned of an increased concentration of Russian forces near the border, raising the risk of fresh attacks on the Sumy, Kharkiv, and Zaporizhia regions. According to Zelensky, Russian President Vladimir Putin aims to exert maximum pressure on Ukraine before trying to impose terms from a position of strength. He accused Putin of making demands on former U.S. President Donald Trump to undermine Ukraine. Specifically, Putin reportedly demanded that Ukraine stop conscription, cease training, and halt receiving Western military aid in exchange for a 30-day ceasefire on all fronts. Zelensky stated that these demands were intended to weaken the Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU. He also noted that the Kremlin is pushing not only to halt U.S. military aid but also support from other countries to further cripple Ukraine. Nevertheless, Zelensky expressed confidence that Ukraine's partners will continue their support to counter Russia. Recently, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer emphasized that Britain and its allies could respond immediately if Russia and Ukraine reached a peace agreement. In an interview, Starmer stated, "Our plan focuses on ensuring security in the air, at sea, and along Ukraine's borders, while also working closely with the Ukrainian people." He added, "We are moving quickly because we do not know if Russia and Ukraine will reach an agreement. I hope they do. If they do, it is crucial that we can respond immediately." Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stated that Europe must continue supporting Ukraine regardless of any potential US-Russia negotiations. According to informed sources, over 10 countries, including the UK, France, Turkey, Canada, and Australia, are discussing a plan to deploy up to 30,000 peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. Several other countries are prepared to provide weapons and logistical support. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced that he and Finnish President Alexander Stubb have completed the establishment and launch of the Civil Defense Coalition. According to United 24 media, Finland has declared its leadership role in this international coalition, focusing on building safe shelters across Ukraine. This initiative was formalized during a meeting between President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Alexander Stubb, with the aim of strengthening Ukraine's civil defense infrastructure amid ongoing security challenges. As part of this initiative, Ukrainian and Finnish ministers signed an official agreement on March 19 to launch the coalition. The document highlights cooperation in shelter construction and further engagement with European and global partners. Speaking at a joint press conference, President Zelensky emphasized Finland's extensive experience in protective infrastructure and the necessity of this initiative for Ukraine. He stated that the coalition, led by Finland, will work with international partners to mobilize resources for building shelters across Ukraine. President Zelensky remarked, "Our nations understand the reality of being neighbors with Russia. Finland has a long-standing tradition of effective civil defense measures. And today, we have discussed how to expand this expertise." The establishment of the Civil Defense Coalition, under Finland's leadership, marks a significant step toward enhancing security for the Ukrainian people. According to the Kyiv Independent, further details about the coalition will be announced in the coming days. But funding for additional air raid shelters in Ukraine has not yet been disclosed. On Finland's side, President Alexander Stubb reaffirmed his country's commitment to supporting Ukraine, stating, "We stand with Ukraine and will remain by its side for as long as necessary." Previously, President Volodymyr Zelensky and First Lady Olena Zelenska paid an official visit to Finland. His agenda included meetings with President Alexander Stubb, senior officials, and representatives from the defense industry to discuss military cooperation, European integration, and sanctions against Russia. According to Min.in.ua, President Zelensky stressed that despite Russia's claims of halting attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, strikes have continued. On the night of March 18, Russia launched an attack on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. President Zelensky emphasized, "This is why we need defense support. Strengthening our air defense is crucial. We must also exert pressure on Russia to ensure security and save lives." He also expressed gratitude to Finland for its support and the newly announced defense aid package. In February, Finland announced military aid for Ukraine worth €660 million, $691 million USD. Finland, along with other Nordic and Baltic nations, has urged the European Union, EU, to expedite Ukraine's membership process. Additionally, during a meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart Rustem Umerov in March, Finnish Defense Minister Antti Hakkinen announced Finland's 28th military aid package for Ukraine, valued at approximately €200 million. At the meeting, the two sides signed a memorandum of cooperation between their defense ministries, aimed at enhancing bilateral defense collaboration. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, the leaders of the Pioneer Nations Alliance, are set to speak at a meeting attended by approximately 30 senior military officials. The meeting takes place amid growing questions regarding the role of this force, particularly after Russian President Vladimir Putin demanded that the West halt military aid to Ukraine as a condition to ending the war. Russia has also rejected the presence of foreign troops on Ukrainian territory as part of any ceasefire agreement. Starmer and Macron have been actively working on building this force since former U.S. President Donald Trump held direct negotiations with Russia last month to end the war. Both leaders believe that this force is crucial, alongside U.S. support, to ensure Ukraine's security and prevent Putin from violating the ceasefire agreement. The talks are being held in London, while EU leaders are scheduled to meet at a summit in Brussels to discuss the bloc's defense capabilities. Additionally, the UK and France have declared their readiness to deploy troops to Ukraine. The UK government stated that several other countries are also willing to do so, though it remains unclear how many nations are actually interested. However, the deployment of a peacekeeping force in Ukraine has sparked intense debate within the UK's defense sector. Despite the government's commitment to increasing military spending, the UK armed forces continue to face significant operational challenges. UK Defence Secretary John Healey has stated that the British military needs reinforcement to be able to participate in large-scale military operations in the future. Although the UK and European nations are actively pushing for a peacekeeping plan, they have yet to play a key role in direct negotiations between the involved parties. Former UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace noted that Russia and the US are conducting direct dialogues without full European participation. Meanwhile, a hospital in the city of Engels, central Russia, was damaged in Ukraine's largest ever drone strike on the region. The nearby regional capital, Saratov, was also targeted. Governor Roman Busargin posted images on his Telegram account, showing shattered hospital windows. A woman was reportedly injured in the attack. In addition to broken glass, an oxygen pipeline was also damaged. Engels and Saratov are located over 600 kilometers from Ukrainian-controlled territory. On the opposite bank of the Volga River, a military airfield is situated on the southeastern outskirts of Engels. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that they had shot down 54 Ukrainian drones over the Saratov region, as well as 40 drones over Voronezh and 22 drones over Belgorod. A smaller number were intercepted in various other regions, bringing the total to 132 drones destroyed by Russian air defenses. Ukraine's latest attack comes amid ongoing ceasefire negotiations, which aim to limit long-range strikes and attacks on energy infrastructure on both sides.